MSCA Postdoctoral Fellowships, what are those? As the name suggests, those are fellowship for postdocs. So it's basically individual fellowship that support postdoctoral researchers. So there's basically one postdoctoral researcher, a host institution, and the supervisor. So this is a mono-beneficiary call that will submit a proposal. MSCAs are basically bottom-up schemes, so they can submit. You can submit a proposal in any field of research, basically, and more on that later. There's two kinds of postdoctoral fellowship. One kind is the European Fellowship. That's basically for any postdoc researcher, so from any nationality, to come to Europe or to move within Europe. And there's a global fellowship which allows basically Europeans to go abroad and then come back. But in all cases, there's one host institution, one postdoctoral researcher, and one supervisor. The 2022 call for PF is closed now already for some time. It was closed in September 2022. But the forthcoming call will be basically next year. And so these are the two types of postdoctoral fellowship that there are in PF. So basically European fellowship of a duration between 12 and 24 months. So those are fellows of any nationality that either move to a member state or an associated country to do a postdoc, or fellows that are already in Europe and move within Europe to do their postdoc. And the other kind of postdoc fellowship is the global fellowship, in which member state or associated countries postdocs only are going out, so to a third country for 12 to 24 months to do their postdocs. And there's a compulsory return phase to Europe, member state or associated countries, for 12 months. So those are the two kinds of fellowship. Basically, so these fellows, these postdocs, they're attached to a host institute, and they can also do secondments. So, you know, while having a contract at a certain institution, they can be seconded to another institution worldwide in any sector, so academic or non-academic. And this happens during the fellowship. For the global fellowship, you know, when people go out of Europe, it's only during the outgoing phase that they can do secondments, so while they are on the third countries. And there's a ceiling to this duration of 1/3, okay? And this should not be confused with non-academic placement. So non-academic placement, it's basically a process whereby the postdoc, at the end only of their fellowship, they can spend 6 months in the non-academic sector only, and only in an EU member state or associated country. And it's a single placement of 6 months at the end of their fellowship. All right, so there's this secondment, max 1/3 of their time during the fellowship, and non-academic placement only for the non-academic at the very end of their fellowship. So who can apply? Basically, postdoctoral researchers from any nationality, except for global fellowship, you know, the ones where people go outside of Europe. So they should be only nationals or long-term resident of a member state or associated countries. So there's a definition of long-term resident in the work program. They should already be in a position of a PhD if they go to a postdoc, and there's a limit of age. They should have up to 8 years of research experience maximum after their PhD. There are some exceptions, so career breaks, work outside research, so it's research experience. If they did something out of research, it doesn't count. And research outside Europe actually can be discounted from these 8 years. Marie Skłodowska actions are all about mobility. So whenever a fellow applies for such funding scheme, they have to move from the place where they are. And the mobility rule is that they should not have resided or carried out their main activity in the country of the beneficiary for more than 12 months in the last 3 years. And just for you to be aware, there are some resubmission restrictions, meaning that let's assume that you had applied for this year for the call and you had a score of less than 70%, you could not apply for the next call. You would have to wait for 2 years to reapply. Finance-wise, how this works, it's basically a very simple approach. One fellow working for 1 month get 1 unit of cost. So there is a researcher unit cost that goes to the researcher, and there's some money for running the project, basically for research training and networking and management and indirect costs. So there is no direct costs to report. It's just this 1 month equal 1 unit, and that's it. These proposals that are 10 pages long, they are evaluated against a set of predefined award criteria that are divided in 3 main criteria: the excellence, the impact, and the implementation. All of these criteria are weighted. Probably mispronounced that, but it's, I mean, excellence counts more than impact, and impact counts more than implementation. Those are criteria that are published on the work program, and they can only be evaluated against these published criteria. So few key points: postdoc researchers only within their first 8 years of research experience. They have to move around. It's a researcher's mobility scheme. I mean, move around. They need to change their country when they start their fellowship. It's training through research. There's a possibility for non-academic placement up to 6 months at the end of the project. Secondments are encouraged. And just to remind you, the duration of this funding, it's 1 to 2 years for European fellowship and 2 to 3 years for global fellowship. And on top of that, there's the non-academic placement of 6 months after the end of their fellowship, as the name suggests, only in the non-academic sector. So what's in it for you, businesses, so opportunities for business? Well, there is the optional placement in the non-academic sector. So you can have a fellow that comes to your company, your non-academic organization, at the end of the project for 6 months. That's paid for by the project. Has to be in the EU member state or associated countries. You would need to submit a letter of commitment in the proposal for that. So you would kind of liaise with somebody who submits a proposal and propose the non-academic sector placement at the end of the project. So that's one thing that you could get out of these postdoctoral fellowships. Of course, it's also possible to welcome postdocs through secondments. Okay, it's open to academic and the non-academic sector. So, and this is open to any country worldwide. So, for up to 1/3 of the total duration of European fellowship, or 1/3 of the outgoing phase of the global fellowship, they could go and work in your company on their research projects. Of course, what I mean by work is work on the project that they are developing as part of their postdoc. And also another opportunity for business for you to know is that at the end of these evaluations, the evaluation of the proposals, there are some ex aequo proposals, and how we disentangle these ex aequo proposals is, amongst other things, the participation in the non-academic sector in the proposal. So there is a kind of, other things being equal, there's a little nudge to push the participation of the non-academic sector. That's something also that could be interesting to know. What does the proposal look like? Basically, there's a proposal template. Everything is in the funding and tender portal of the commission. But basically, to make a long story short, there are three in the main proposal. There are 3 sections. So remember, I told you there were 3 evaluation criteria: excellence, impact, and implementation. This corresponds to 3 main sections of the proposal, in which the applicants, they have to explain a number of things. So it's divided in paragraphs, and you will see that these paragraphs correspond to the sub-criteria of each criterion. Okay. There's so excellence, and then you will get the slides, so I don't think I need to go through all of this. But one thing that's important is that all of these Marie Sklodowska-Curie actions, they have a strong focus on the researcher's career, skill development, and employability. And that means employability also in the non-academic sector, so in all sectors. So everything that can help the fellow be employable in different areas of work, including the non-academic, is particularly welcome in this project. Okay, that's basically what the proposal looks like, and yeah, I think that's it for this first part. And I'm ready to take your questions if you have any.
Thank you, Julien. I was wondering, because I think most of the people from the audience here are quite new and doesn't know a lot about MSCA. If you could maybe come back to the end of your presentation with the different evaluation criteria, because I think it's quite crucial for them.
Yes, indeed. So I will share again. And I will go to, the evaluation criteria. Okay, so those are the evaluation criteria. So it basically, if you take the excellence, for instance, then in the proposal, the applicant would have to explain the quality and pertinence of the research project and the innovation objectives, how far they go beyond the state of the art, and they have to describe the methodology, including interdisciplinary approach, open science practices, the quality of supervision, training, and the two-way transfer of knowledge between the researcher and the host. Needless to say, I didn't mention that, but what's in it for businesses as well is transfer of knowledge between the academic and the non-academic through the fellow that moves between the different sectors. And there is also the quality and appropriateness of the researcher's professional experience, competencies, and skills. So basically, all these four aspects are sub-criteria of the excellence criterion in that case, and experts evaluators. So this is a peer review process. Each proposal will be assessed by a set of 3 independent evaluators that would assess, the value, or let's say the adequacy of what the applicant has written against the sub-criteria, and this will be scored from 0 to 5, and then with the system of weighing of 50% for excellence, 30 for impact, and 20 for implementation, you will get a score out of 100 in the end. The same for impact. So we're looking at proposals that are scientifically excellent, but that also makes an impact, a certain kind of impact. So for instance, an impact on the career's perspective and the employability of the fellow in and outside academia. So again, focus on the all kinds of employability, how they disseminate and exploit or communicate the outcome of the project that they will run. Do they have an impact in the scientific realm, in the societal realm, or on economic impact? This is all part of the impact criterion. Again, 3 sub-criteria assessed, a score out of 5 for the overall criterion, and the same is for the implementation. So implementation would be more, the work plan, the logical flow between the different strands of the research project, and the quality and capacity of the participating organizations. Basically, do they have the infrastructure, the experience, the background in the research area? How are the hosting arrangements for the fellows? These sorts of things. So that would be how the proposals are evaluated, to make a long story short.